Good evening and welcome to Mello TV. I'm your host, Nicole Hayles. Thank you for joining us for another evening that promised to reveal interesting set of revelations and findings. Joining the discussion is pollster Bill Johnson. Also joining us tonight to analyze the findings is political analyst Paul Bourne and Dr. Morris Guy, Shadow Minister of Health and Wellness. We will hear the views of the Jamaican people who have been vaccinated, those that are planning to get vaccinated, and the reasons why some persons decide not to take the jab. Gentlemen, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bill, on Friday we had some telling numbers on the issue of the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and mandatory vaccination. Based on your survey, those 18 and older, they were asked, have they been vaccinated? What are the numbers showing, and also based on gender, education, age, and socioeconomic status?
Okay, basically, Nicole, only 36% of the people 18 and older in Jamaica have been vaccinated. 64% said they have not been vaccinated. Now, these numbers are basically the same as those reported by the World Health Organization in terms of vaccinations in Jamaica. They report approximately 750,000 total people getting at least one jab, and that's been based on the entire population. That's a vaccination rate of about 26%. Now, we obviously just interviewed people 18 and over, and if you convert that 26% to 18 and over, it's 36%. So that the good news is that our sample was right on in terms of those who have actually been vaccinated. The bad news is that it looks like politics is coming into this whole vaccination process. If you look at vaccination rates by which party people voted for in the last election, you can see that 53% of the JLP voters are vaccinated today. 25% of the PNP voters, or less than half of the JLP, are vaccinated today, and 32% of those who didn't vote in the last general election are vaccinated today. Also, we have some very interesting numbers by various demographic groups. Gender, 31% of men are vaccinated compared to 41% of the women. If you look at educational levels, those at the lowest level of education, 32% are vaccinated, 34% of those in the medium level, and 53% of those with college graduates or university graduates or graduate school graduates are vaccinated. We also have significant differences by age. Those 18 to 24, 30% are vaccinated, and you can see from the chart 35% of those 25 to 34, 37% those 35 to 54, and then finally those 65 and older, 54% are vaccinated at this time. Also, if you look at socioeconomic status, those in the highest socioeconomic group, 66% are vaccinated. The middle class, 54%, working class, 35%, and the lower class is 33%. So there's still an awful lot of work to do in terms of getting these vaccination rates up. It's no secret that Jamaica is next to the bottom in the Caribbean in terms of vaccination rates. The only one country lower than us is Haiti at this time. So we really have an awful lot of work to do in terms of getting these vaccination rates up.
Some telling numbers being presented tonight. Dr. Guy, 64% of the population polled in January 2020, that's this year, they are yet to be vaccinated. What do you make of these numbers?
All right. First of all, I'm not surprised at the numbers that have come out. And it is simply because Bill made a statement about, in terms of politics playing a role. The reality is that we have always felt that the vaccination program should have been taken out of the hands of the politicians. Um, I have said that on many occasions, and I still maintain that. I keep referring to the example of Portugal, where they got a retired um, vice admiral to be the person in charge of vaccination program. And I suspect, if not too correct in the numbers, but they are in high 80s in terms of vaccination numbers. Now, we are so politically polarized in Jamaica that there is less likelihood of people believing a political leader. The prime minister is the prime minister of Jamaica, is the head of the government. The reality, though, is that he's also head of the Jamaica Labour Party. And if he's the one who's taking the lead, as he did in the first instance, going to St. Thomas to do the vaccination in the Blitz, to encourage people, as was said, um, because of the polarization, there are many who might not necessarily want to listen to his message. And similarly, what that would happen with the leader of the opposition doing it in another area. So we have a situation where people might not necessarily want the politicians to give them the numbers. Secondly, the vaccination program, we have always maintained that it should be left in the hands of the scientists. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has basically hugged up the program from day one. They did not allow the private medical doctors who see the majority of people in this country for healthcare. And it is only belatedly that in the latter part of the year that they have sought to encourage those private practitioners to be part of the program. Bill, your indication of 25% voters PNP and 53% of voters JLP are vaccinated. Now, interestingly, our assessment from the party from the last election indicated that a significant numbers of our voters stayed home and did not vote. Probably what would have been a better index of what the parties would line up is to ask whether which party they belong to as opposed to who they voted for, because that has some bearing on the numbers. But I do agree that we have a far way to go in terms of the persons who need to be vaccinated. And we think that we, from this side, the PNP thinks that much more can be achieved if we, one, get as czar as we have always asked for. Two, that we take the vaccines to the people as opposed to the people to the vaccines, get into the communities. Three, change the message. The messaging that is out there is not relevant now. And four, one of the things that we need to do is to have an honest discussion with our people. And the only way you can have that is to go into the communities with those who are scientific based. Have a discussion with the people about the pros and cons of vaccination, because people do have, and if we are to look at the data revealed by the poll, the significant numbers of persons who are unvaccinated, well, or who were vaccinated, the lesser number are those who are less educated. So we need a message and we need a messenger that will take to those people in the deep rural areas, into the areas where they're not as educated, quote unquote, as in other areas, and to have an honest discussion with them. We have always asked for, still not late, to have the community influencers, the ones who people respect in the communities, the pastors, the JPs, the school principals, the school teachers, people who have influence among theirs. Have that discussion. Then you go in and do the vaccination. I don't think, quite honestly, the significant number of Jamaicans are anti-vaxxers. They have their concerns about a new vaccine. They have their concerns about the fact that on social media, the anti-vaxxers have been doing a splendid job, quote unquote, splendid job in trying to pull wool over the eyes of the people. And they are succeeding at this point in time. We have not, the government has not
Dr.
crafted a
Guys,
message.
still on the issue. I want to touch on something based on what you have mentioned. Still on the issue of the 64% not being vaccinated, can it be associated with this portion of the population not trusting the government or the rhetoric of the PNP regarding the pandemic and its handling?
Well, it is a combination of both. I would want to think it's the former, as you indicated, in the trust, because you see, um, when you look at how it has been done and the utterances that have been coming across, people feel that it is something that is being shoved down their throat or shoved into their arm. And it is for that why, as I have said before and still maintain and will maintain, that the politics has to be taken out of it. Take the politicians out of it. You know, interestingly, I was asked a question, well, you are a doctor and a politician, how do you take yourself out of it? But the point is that, I mean, leave it to those who are non-politicians to run the program.
Dr. Guy, is the PNP encouraging persons to take the vaccine, and what strategies are you using to persuade them?
All right. We have been on board from day one. I can tell you that the leader of the opposition has actively encouraged people to take. I have been one of those who have been at the forefront in the early blitzes and even now encouraging my constituents to come out and take the vaccines. I presented myself at the centers. I've encouraged, cajoled, carried people to the vaccination sites. And in fact, in my other hat I wear, which is a medical doctor, I'm also one of those who give the vaccines to people. I have from early been on a joint interview discussion, call it what you may, with the Honorable Minister Tufton to encourage, as a joint approach, to encourage our Jamaicans to take vaccines. So we are very much on board. All of our members of parliament, barring none, were vaccinated very early in the day. And we have still maintained that we will still carry that fight to the people to encourage a vaccination program.
But Dr. Guy, sometimes persons might argue that the pandemic at times seems highly politicized. How is the PNP ensuring that they're not doing this?
Well, it's a difficult task. The reality, however, is that we have to walk between the raindrops. We have to ensure that, as I said, that honest discussion, you know, so that people will feel that it is not just one side saying something as opposed to the other side. Get persons who are apolitical to do it. And what we are doing is encouraging the government to go that particular route. We are also encouraging our people to go and take the vaccines.
Okay. Our team went on the streets and spoke with persons who have been vaccinated, and here is what they had to say.
Because I've catch COVID and it's very deadly, it's very dangerous, and I would advise anyone it's best to take the vaccine, because when you get the vaccine you have more immunity against COVID. And after I take the vaccine I catch COVID again a second time and I overcome it more quicker.
I've been taking vaccine from as a child, so I don't see the big difference now. As a citizen of Jamaica, right, you trying to take the vaccine is not only for self-preservation, but it helped the country financially. And if they said it's something that will prevent COVID, you understand, it would help the country financially.
It was a decision between myself and my family, and we just decided we wanted to be on the right side of the virus, if you want to put it that way. I took it by myself, but my siblings also took it at the same time.
Certainly I did take the vaccine. Well, apparently the virus is real. I have known people that died from it, and not because they die, I think it's the right thing to do. Take the vaccine so my country can open up, and also work in the tourist sector. And tourism play a big important role to our economy. So I believe taking the vaccine is doing the right thing, and I advise other Jamaicans who haven't done it already to proceed and do so we can have a better living, more freedom, and less people sick and less people die.
Protecting yourself. If I'm protected, she has to be protected, and that in turn will protect her friends as well. Everybody, listen, go get the shot. Go get the shot. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Bill, let's look at the question of if not vaccinated, are you planning to get vaccinated? How did the Jamaican people respond to this question?
Okay, well, as you pointed out, 64% of the people haven't been vaccinated up until the time we did the survey. We asked those, are you planning to get vaccinated in the near future? 28% said yes, they were, 56% said no, they were not, and 16% didn't know. Now, if you combine those who said they're vaccinated with those who say they're going to get vaccinated, that 28% is actually 18% of the entire sample. So that 54% of the people of Jamaica is sort of the best case scenario in terms of people getting vaccinated. 35% say they're not going to get vaccinated, and 11% don't know. So basically, as I say, the high number is probably going to be ultimately about 54% getting vaccinated, 35% not getting vaccinated. Now, if you break this down by political party again, 72% of the JLP voters say yes to they're either vaccinated now or they will get vaccinated, compared to 49% of the PNP voters and 48% of those who didn't vote in the last election. So once again, unfortunately, we have this party divide here. Those who basically said they're not going to get vaccinated or who didn't know if they were getting vaccinated or not, we asked them why they're not planning to get vaccinated. And the answers were not interested, don't want to, was mentioned by 19%, don't trust the vaccine, mentioned by 17%. It doesn't help, you still get the virus, 13%. 7% said they still have to do research on their own about whether to get vaccinated. 6% said they're thinking about it. 5% mentioned the various health reasons for not getting vaccinated. 5% said it's not safe, there are health risks associated with the vaccination. 4% said, I'm not sick yet, so I don't have to take it. Once I get sick, I'll take it. 4% said not ready for it, and 3% said they're afraid that it will kill them. So we have a lot of misinformation out there, which obviously behooves the country to try to get straightened out.
Based on the findings that Bill just delivered to that, we went on the streets to hear why persons say they are not taking the vaccine. Here's what they had to say.
When my mind and my heart is made up. It's not like I have anything against it, but personally, if I can speak broken language, I don't really like wire going on my hand. I don't really like needle, and it hot. When I'm brave and I'm brave up enough, I'll take it. And when I get some more info on it, I'll take it.
If you have catch the virus, naturally it doesn't, I don't think you need to take the vaccine, mainly because you have natural immunity. And I think natural immunity is always the best way to go. Not saying that you should go out and contract it like that just to get it, but yes.
I haven't been vaccinated as yet. And the reason for that is that I want to be honest, I want to see the results or if there are any side effects for a year to pass or two before I actually consider taking it. But if it comes down to the fact that it's the mandated for each company or the company I work for, then I would actually have to consider it or take it in that manner because I don't want to stop my workflow.
Do believe that it's a personal choice. I'm not anti-vax, but I do believe in freedom of choice. All right, I don't believe that we should be forced to take something that does come with side effects. And I know many persons who have had side effects from this vaccine, so I don't plan on taking the vaccine. I did get COVID recently within the past month, and so I have read lots of studies, and if they have shown that natural immunity is the best immunity out there. And so there is scientifically no need for me to take the vaccine. And in fact, that might actually cause more harm than good.
Dr. Guy, you just heard the comments from the Jamaican persons why they aren't taking the vaccine. It corroborates the findings of Bill. 56% say they're not taking the vaccine based on the findings. What do you make of these numbers, Dr. Guy, and the comments of the Jamaican people, why they're not getting on the vaccination train?
Jamaica has an enviable record in terms of vaccination, childhood vaccinations. We are basically respected worldwide. We are in the high 80s and low 90s in terms of childhood vaccination. The reality is, as I said before, the education of our people and the message that goes out there. The same individual who indicated he's afraid of needles is one who needs to have some education as to why he needs to take it. And further, the one who mentioned, the young lady who mentioned about natural immunity, though important, but are you going to wait to see whether you are one of those who end up in the morgue or otherwise before you decide to get vaccinated? So we have many issues out there that we need to address, and I think it is not insurmountable. It is not beyond us as a population to neutralize some of those concerns that are out there. Interestingly, the first set of persons who were interviewed who indicated why the reasons why they take the vaccines are the ones who we should be using as well as others to be the influencers. They are to be the new messengers out there, the messengers that will help our people to appreciate and accept that the vaccination is safe, that yes, there are some concerns about it, but you can have a discussion which will tell them that these side effects are rare, they're minimal, and they're less likely to occur. The vast majority, it's a balance, like you even prescribe 2 Panadols for someone. The likelihood of them getting better from the Panadol is in the 90s, but there's always the risk. Tell the people that, and they will decide for themselves. Don't just go and glorify the vaccine to say, okay, it will do this, that, and the other. As I said before, that honest discussion with our people is what is going to help as well.
Bill, let's shift gear. Let's look at the best case scenario, total vaccination, and those percentage of those that voted in the last general election. How did they poll?
Okay, 72% of those who voted for the JLP basically said they're either vaccinated now or they will be vaccinated. 49% voted for the PNP, said they're either vaccinated or will be vaccinated, and 48% of those who didn't vote said they're either vaccinated now or they will be vaccinated. For the sake of the PNP, I hope that their numbers increase, or they're going to become, they're going to start losing members over time if their vaccination rates don't increase. As I'm sure Dr. Guy is trying to do something about.
Yes, but if I may, Nicole. Hello? Can I? Yes. I was saying, I appreciate what Bill is saying, and I do accept it. But I go back to one of the earlier statements I made. It's only 37% of the population who came out to vote in the last election, So we have 63% who are out there who, when you capture this particular data, and as I said to Bill before, it might have been a little more clarity to the whole thing to say what particular party you belong to in terms of getting that. But I understand why he did that. But it's only 37% of the population voted in the last election. You have 63% who were out there who didn't vote at all, So that is also a consideration. It doesn't, and I'm saying that to say that even though the figures look stark right now, it might not be what will happen in the future if the new message, if the new direction, if the new program is launched. And I hear the Prime Minister say that he's going to be having a new vaccination program coming out very shortly. I'm hoping that some of the recommendations that we have made from the longest while are really incorporated into this, and that we can have more for Jamaicans be more comfortable with the vaccine.
Dr. Guy, your final thoughts before you leave us?
Well, I want to say that this poll is an eye-opener, first of all. Secondly, that it gives us a reason and a basis and data in front of us, which ought, as a country and as a government, to craft a message which will reach the significant percentage of the population which is unvaccinated. It will help if the reasons that have been advocated are taken on board. It will help to craft a better vaccination strategy, and it is my hope that we will reach some significant numbers in terms of vaccination above the 65%, which has been characterized as herd immunity. We need to get higher than that. It is possible, and I think because of what I've said about our childhood vaccination and our historical records, that we can reach in the high 80s or early 90s.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guy.
My pleasure.
On Friday, the Prime Minister, in making a presentation, had this to say regarding vaccination.
We are never out of the fight, and we are never weary in doing good. And what is right, even if it is not popular, we will continue to promote what is right. Respecting, of course, that this is democracy, this is a free country, and we respect people's opinions, but we know that opinions are not facts. And so if you are factually incorrect, then we will seek to bring you to the point of what is correct. And so we will continue to promote vaccination as a solution. As people search for certainty and search for identity and validation of how they feel. So, you know, they feel a particular way about a mistrust about vaccines and government policy, and so they will identify arguments that support it, validates their perspective. But this validation leads the society down a dangerous path. My popularity is immaterial to the country's best interest, and I would have abdicated my duties as looking out for the best interest of the country if I did not continue to be the strongest messenger about vaccination and to reflect to the Jamaican people whose views might be different, that your perspectives, many of your perspectives that you are now embracing are dangerous and inimical to your own interests.
Bill, let's look at the question of those who have school-age children living with them and their vaccination status against COVID. Or are they planning to get them vaccinated as well?
Yes, Nicole, we asked those who have school-age children living with them if they're planning to have their children vaccinated against COVID. 36% said they were, 60% said no, they were not, and 4% didn't know. Once again, there's a political divide on this. 47% of JLP voters with school-age children are planning to have them vaccinated, compared to 34% of PNP voters and 30% of those who didn't vote. So unfortunately, as I say, there's still this political divide. We asked people who are not planning to have their children vaccinated, why aren't they planning to have them vaccinated? 30% said the children are just too young to be vaccinated. 12% said they're not interested, they don't have to do this. 11% said they don't trust the vaccine. 5% mentioned health reasons, and 5% said it doesn't help, you still can get the virus. So there's still a lot of education that has to be done with parents in terms of vaccination of their children.
Paul, thanks for joining us. 64% of Jamaicans polled say they're not vaccinated. You would have heard the vox pop. A lot of persons said they have developed herd immunity, so they have no reason to take the vaccine. Dr. Guy is adamantly against that and want to encourage persons to take the vaccine. Your thoughts on the numbers we've presented so far this evening?
Well, the numbers must be taken into some context, all right? It's not that people do not want to be vaccinated, but what really happened is the messenger is the problem, all right? In 2007, a research was done at the University of West Indies that found that 7% of Jamaicans trust the government. In 2022, I commissioned a study that found out that 17% of Jamaicans trust the government. 17%. So what does it mean? A high level of distrust is the undercurrent that is creating the problem at the moment. And if you observe carefully what is going on in Jamaica, the campaign is substantially structured and governed by the government. And if there is a high level of distrust for government, and it's a government that is putting forward the message of vaccination, people are just not going to be vaccinated. And that is fundamentally the problem that is occurring here. As I said before, and I'm saying it again, the message has to be carried out in keeping what the persons are saying. And people do not trust the government, and the figures are clearly indicating this. 64 of every 100 Jamaicans have not been vaccinated. However, almost 90% of Jamaicans have been vaccinated prior to COVID-19. What does it say to you? Jamaicans don't have a problem with vaccination. But if you look at vaccination even outside of our current situation now in Jamaica, it was not pushed by government. The atmosphere was created and public health practitioners did their duty, did their job. Now the COVID-19 vaccine is substantially a political matter. And that's what is causing the problem. If you look at even the figures, 53% of the JLP have been vaccinated. Those who are JLP, who voted for the JLP, compared to 25% of those who are PNP. That is the stark reality. When politics comes into play, people are going to step aside.
So Paul, can you just tell us, based on the facts presented, is the vaccination program non-partisan or it's highly politicized?
Well, I do not think it is a political matter. All right? It's clear to me in terms of, and viewers in Jamaica, that the vaccination really is put forward by the government and not so much the Jamaican Labour Party. So we need to understand clearly it's not that the matter is political because of the JLP. It's political because people do not trust government in Jamaica. So I can guarantee the People's National Party were in power, people would not have trusted them either. So the matter is government and not really JLP or the PNP. But when you look at the figures, what it is saying is that persons are taking the vaccination because their party is in power, which is sad. Because a matter so critical, I remember, it's a communicable disease. So it is a political disease. The disease is not going to strike the JLP, not the PNP, or the PNP, not the JLP, or children, or not the adults. And that is where the challenge is at the moment. We have got to look at it, start a new campaign, a new thrust towards this vaccination.
Okay, Bill, let's look at the findings for the question, if no or don't know, why are they planning to have their children vaccinated? What are those numbers showing?
Well, basically, it's the same thing. I mean, they're just resistant to having their children vaccinated. The saying, 5 to 17 is too young for children to be vaccinated, even though, as Paul mentioned and Dr. Guy mentioned, 9 out of 10 of these children have been vaccinated anyway for another disease or multiple diseases. It's the same old, as Paul and Dr. Guy have been alluded to. It's the same old thing. The messenger is wrong in these cases. The messenger should be the local doctors, as far as I'm concerned. And at this point, as from what I understand, that they haven't been the primary messengers. And we have to do something about that, or the country is going to face disastrous consequences.
But if you look at the figures,
commented on the
Nicole,
possibility of the discontinuation of the
audience.
disaster risk management measures to curtail the COVID pandemic, and the government has done its best given the circumstances. Here's what the Prime Minister had to say.
There is, in the pandemic, many differing views being brought into the public arena. Some views stand the test of reason, and unfortunately many don't. There is a perspective being shared that the strategy of the government should have been to prepare for COVID. And if you take it to the logical conclusion of that proposition, the argument would go something like this, that the government should increase its healthcare capacity to fight COVID so that it does not have to rely on non-clinical measures to control COVID, meaning that increase the healthcare system and abandon the various health controls. It sounds logical, and it's a reasonable proposition to an extent. Now, when the pandemic started, the government made massive investments in providing dedicated bed space and diverted healthcare attention from other areas of need to focus primarily on tackling this novel virus to which we were naive. Now, we rapidly increased our beds. We brought on more doctors. We brought in ventilators. We did all that was possible within our budget. Now, if you're going to talk long-term increase in your capacity, now that could not happen during the pandemic. It takes at least 5 years from design to breaking ground to put a proper hospital in place. We were able, through partnerships, to get field hospitals in. But those, even though they immediately assist, they are really very temporary. And you would not consider them a permanent increase in the capacity. We are a government that really and truly cares. But we are now in a dilemma. If we continue with the measures, the government will not have enough resources to be able to keep doing the social safety net response. It's just a reality. If we continue with the measures, the mental health impact on the society, it could be irretrievable.
Paul, you just heard the Prime Minister. Your final thoughts before we go.
You know, having listened to the Prime Minister, listen to the Prime Minister carefully, I think he has missed the message totally. When I say total, I mean totally. He's somewhere east when the message is somewhere west. In the sense that people are not saying that the government should not have actually open capacity of hospitals or healthcare services. That's not what people are saying. People are saying the wrong person is the messenger. So what should have happened, like what have happened long ago, is that the government had resources and infrastructure put in place. When I was a child, that happened, and Nicole, when you were a child, it happened as well. You didn't hear the government coming forward on television and radio and all that, promulgating vaccination. That was left to the healthcare individuals. So all we are saying, and Mr. Holness has missed the message, the messenger, Mr. Holness, is the problem. And unless you get that and understand the concept of the messenger, you're going to have a problem. Because the people are not saying they do not want to be vaccinated. That's exactly what is happening, Sir Holness.
A riveting discussion this evening. Bill, come tomorrow. What can we expect?
Well, I think it's going to be riveting tomorrow also. We asked people their feelings about the various states of emergencies, and also if is it perhaps time that we bring hanging back to Jamaica to deal with the crime problem. And we have some fascinating responses to both of those, and I think everybody should look forward to tomorrow's program.
There you have it. Join us tomorrow and every weekday until February 25 to get the answers to many more important questions to the Mello TV Bill Johnson poll, and also listen to Mello FM and Rhythm FM newscasts for the recap. I want to thank this evening's guests, pollster Bill Johnson, political analyst Paul Bourne, and Dr. Morris Guy, Shadow Minister on Health and Wellness. I'm Nicole Hayles on behalf of the entire production team. Thanks for watching.